Vardhanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Nishasane Karma Uta Vardhanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Nishasane Karma Uta Vardhanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Nishasane Karma Uta Vardhanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Nishasane Karma Uta Vardhanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Nishasane Karma Uta Vardhanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Nishasane Karma Uta Vardhanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Nishasane Karma Uta Vardhanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Nishasane Karma Uta Vardhanya Shri Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Nishasane Karma Uta Vardhanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Nishasane Karma Uta Vardhanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Nishasane Uta Vardhanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Nishasane Karma Uta Vardhanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Dagi Jetsun Lama Toje Che Nyamda Dala Toje Siksusu Gebe Shesan Dala Tenduso Uyon Sungi Nawa Tseduso Tseji Ningne Sowa Debe Tse Dejen Korlo Viso Lekshune Yela Sambe Dede Malupa Gemel Hungi Drubra Jingelo Tsoni Sodan Dikdun Shapetse Dungi Namge Yinsu Lekshune Labchen Tsoni Yonsu Zopadang Chera Nyetun Chanwara Jingelo Chancho Pargi Ninsen Tukuntu Niu Peme Siudru Lekshune Chancho Drube Gegen Kunshishi Tungen Dela Drubra Jingelo Dagi Lona Chela Chopadang Chemi Samchur Ngemba Shiwadang Chedan Tumbe Dedem Bemel Hungi Drubra Jingelo dorna tengne tsera tamche dang, techi pardo nekav tamche tu, rese kyamne lama kele me, tuje chingi dalas. Gongya drewe nyamda dachala, chetsun lame tuje rab gongne, koda sungi nawa dralme tu, nyamsu nyome kesan tobra isho, kewa kundu yanda lamadan, drame cheki pela longche chim, sadan lamge yende rabzone, dorje changi kopan yurto visho. Pakyuke kudam dagi lo pakyuke sundan dagi pakyuke tudan dagi ye teyer me chintu jingi lo pa kyu ke kudan dagi lo pa kyu ke sudan dagi ngam pa kyu ke tudan dagi te yerme chintu jingi lo ma kyu ke kudan dagi lo ma kyu ke sundan dagi ma kyu ke tudan dagi te yerme chintu jingi lo om muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Soha Om Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Soha Om Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Soha. Sangye chedan soge chonamla chancho pardo dani kyapsu drola penche Sangye chedan soge chonamla chancho pardo dani kyapsu Dagi jinso gibe sonamgi drola pinchire sangye drupar Sangye chedan sogi chonamla chanchu bardo danik Dagi jinso gibe sonamgi drola pinchira sangye druparasho. In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all. So, just before we start with the text, I just had two thoughts that I wanted to share. It's because, as Rinpoche was saying yesterday, this is the first time that we do Dharma teachings in this room. That before was our bar restaurant, that now became this new room for giving teachings and courses and so on. And two things came to my mind. The first thing is how fortunate we are. Because when we think about the teachings of the Dharma, they are actually quite rare, in a way. Because in a way we can say, yes, today we have internet, there is so much and so on, but if we really look well, it's not so common to be able to receive teachings of the Dharma in a clear and a way that is also adapted to our mentality and so on. Take, for instance, Tibet, okay? The place where our lineage comes from, where it has been kept for centuries and centuries and centuries. At the same time that it is there purely, and there are many monasteries keeping it very well, such as Tashilumpo, Sera Ganden Drepung, Gaga, Chamdo Champaling, and many others. The big monastic institutions, there is possible to receive very well the teachings and do the practices and so on. But otherwise, what happens is that if you go to the lay people in the cities or in the villages, they have faith, but they do not really receive much teachings. If you ask them to describe Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and to say what it means to take refuge, or to tell the meaning of refuge and bodhicitta, and the meaning of enlightenment, or much less the meaning of correct view of reality, there will be no way, whatever. So what happened with that is that really it is quite rare, if we go to Tibet itself, for Dharma teachings to be given to lay people, first thing. Even in India also, it's quite rare. People like to go to initiations where they receive the moment where the head is put on their head. They receive the water, they receive the blessing, and they're happy with that, you know. There's no much like, okay, understanding the actual meaning of Dharma. Then maybe they do one mantra, one prayer, but it's not like really going through the teachings and understanding the meaning and meditating and practicing. This is quite rare. There are exceptions, but it's somehow quite rare. At the same time, when we talk about monks, in Tibet, as I said, there are some great monasteries where people really practice well, where not everyone, but many do practice well, but not everyone. It's like if we take, for instance, a monastery like Tashilumpo, we have 800 monks. It's not that 800 monks are there practicing the Dharma well, and they are there with the correct motivation and learning really the Dharma. If we put like 1/3 is already a lot. Okay? So what happened at the same time is that if we go to see the small monasteries that are around nearby Shigatse and Lhasa and all the other cities, all the small monasteries around Tibet, it's quite sad to say, but it's a truth, that actually it's very, very common for monks in the small monasteries to enter the monastery, learn how to do the whole ceremony things. Like, okay, there they need to do this and that puja, they learn how to do that, but they have no idea whatsoever about the actual meaning of Dharma. You know? They have no idea really about the teachings of Buddha, the Four Noble Truths. You know? And I have learned this because one of my when I was receiving teachings in Tibet from the abbot of Tashilumpo, Kachin Losam Pinso Rinpoche, one day while I was receiving a teaching came to the teaching one monk from another monastery to request for teachings. You know? So he came there and he came to request for some teachings, and he was from a small monastery nearby, monastery of Shalu. Some of us have been there. And very beautiful, ancient monastery. Maybe today, nowadays, 20 monks, something like that there. And he came to receive a request for teachings. And then he said, okay, but what teachings do you want? I don't remember now, some lammering, something he requested. And then he asked, okay, what have you been receiving last time? He said, oh, there is another teacher here in Tashilhunpo. I came and asked him to teach me the lammering. And he taught me the middle lammering of Lama Tsongkhapa and so on. And I said, okay, and how did it go? He said, oh, it was okay. He taught me the small scope and the medium scope, and then when we got to the great scope, he simply read the text quickly because he said I couldn't understand. You know? Then I asked my teacher, I said, how can it be like that? You know? Because the small scope and medium scope means renunciation. The great scope is bodhicitta. And then after comes correct view of reality. And how come, not even able to understand bodhicitta? And then he said, yes, sadly it's like this. No preparation, no basis really to understand the Dharma teachings. Even because in Tibetan, if you don't have any real basis, you don't even understand the terms, you even don't understand the words. So, what happened is that it's very common, and then he was telling me, he said, it's very sad, but it's very, very common for monks in the small monasteries not to have actually the understanding, what in Tibetan is called nangten, the inner understanding of the meaning, of the inner meaning, the understanding of the inner meaning of Dharma, which means the actual meaning, not only they are able, to dress in the right way, to go to do the puja, and to recite things and so on, but if you ask, what are you reciting? What's the meaning of that? Why do you do it? And so on, boo. No real answer, which is very sad. This is a very clear sign of degeneration. But on the other hand, here in the West, we are so fortunate because when Dharma originally came to the West, I'm talking about Tibetan Buddhism because it's the one that I know a little bit better. When Tibetan Buddhism came to the West, who were the masters, the teachers, the gurus that came mostly from India? No, originally from Tibet and later from India to the West, were the best that there was there. The best teachers would come to the West to teach the Dharma. This is really good karma for us, our good karma, but it was not like, okay, in this West, these people, they have no idea about the Dharma. Let's just send them some small geisha or some monk that knows something just for them to learn some basic. No, they sent them the highest realized teachers and the most well-qualified gurus that came to the West. And not only that, these great masters, they valued the Westerners by giving the most profound teachings. Okay, so we are so fortunate when we really look the fact of having received such teachings that are so, so rare, having the opportunity to share them here. It's something that is very rare. It's rare also because of another aspect. The teachings itself are rare. Then, to have the right condition to receive them, it's also rare because we need both sides. We need the one who is teaching, that must have the knowledge, must come from a pure lineage, uninterrupted lineage, and so on. And then the one who is listening must have an open mind, must have the wish to learn, and so on, which is also quite rare. And then we can have three types. One is already rare, to have the intention to listen well to the Dharma. Then once you have the intention to listen to the Dharma, it's the intention to put into practice. And then once you have the intention to put into practice, it's even more rare for you to keep the intention to put it into practice later and bring it at home and put it into practice, really. So if we really look all these conditions together, they are quite rare, really. But not only rare, they are precious, because something being rare, necessarily it's not precious. They are very rare sicknesses, nobody wants them. So it's not because something is rare that necessarily it is special or it is precious. The Dharma, it's rare, but at the same time it's precious because it's the only thing that really values in this life. Otherwise, money comes and goes, and or not come. When it comes, it goes anyhow. And our health is coming and going, and more sooner or later we are going to die. And then this body goodbye, and then, I don't know, recognition and friends and enemies and relationships, all of this is going and coming, and always all these things to which we give all the importance of our life is going. And finally, what is really there to sustain us, to help us, is the Dharma. That's why the Guru is so important, not because of the physical person of the Guru, but because of the Dharma, and because he's the one that is giving it to us. Okay. So, it's really something that, and the Dharma can give us true happiness and satisfaction. So, it's really something that it's rare and precious. Okay, all of this to say that we have this new room, and it's so precious that we need to rejoice that we need the second room where to teach the Dharma, no? In this condition where it is so rare, on both sides, who is teaching and who is receiving the teachings and so on, and having the conditions, even if we look in Italy, most of the Dharma centers are teaching the Dharma in small rooms underground, something like this, It's true. And then here we are, okay, now we create a second place where to teach the Dharma because we have occasions where we need to do 2 teachings contemporary because of many reasons and so on. It's very precious, all of this. It's really special, in a way. So we need deeply to rejoice about all of that. Okay, this was the first thing, importance of us to rejoice about the Dharma. The second thing, shortly, briefly, is the fact that we like giving names to things, no? And it's interesting to see that when we give a name to something, it becomes what we call, no? Like here before was restaurant. Then at a certain point it can become dormitory. And then at a certain point it becomes gompa. It depends the function that we attribute to it, the name that we give to it, and so it becomes. Okay, you put some little paint, nothing, but really it's not that the point. It's what's the name that you are giving to it. And it's just interesting, just sharing. This is not important, but just like that. Here, some places, there is the attitude of giving special names to places. Like, I remember when Professor Yönden Gyatso went to Rinpoche's house in Nepal, he gave a beautiful philosophical, mystical name for each room, And he wrote a small poem for each room of the house that is put there. And there is the ways of giving names, and giving very special, profound, and vast names to places and putting the name in front of each gompa and so on. Here, what we do is we give nicknames to places, and this is the name that the place keeps forever, If we think, our gompa, we call it Borobudur. Why? Because the statues of Borobudur went there before it was ever finished or anything like that. And we call, this is our Borobudur because we love so much Borobudur, so we say this is our Borobudur. And so it remained. There was a name given, the temple of heaven and earth. But who calls it like that? No one, We also say, let's go to Borobudur. Okay? This is one example. Then there is another example which is not so Dharma connected, but we have the place where we do the theater, no? We call the golden place. Why is it called the golden place? Does it have anything golden in it? Is it so precious and beautiful for it to be called golden place? It's basically because when we came here, this was the place where all the cow dung was put. No? So when Rinpoche first arrived here, he started calling the place Kaka place. Okay? Then after some time, when we started using the place for activities and so on, it was not so nice, even though I liked it very much, it was not so nice for people to say, let's go to the Kaka place, no? So then Rinpoche gave the other name, Golden Place. But in this case, the golden, in Tibetan, there is even some jokes and so on, which golden is nothing more than the same name for shit, but calling it in a nice way, So it's like saying Kaka place in a different way. That's how it became the golden place, because we transform it into that. Anyhow, Yeah. It's just to say that, okay, that's the name that was given, like making a joke or something, and that's the name that remains until today. And most probably the day that we will finish to make the theater well and nice and so on, it will be the Golden Place Theater, you know. It's like, this is how things are taken in time. We give a name and the name remains. And and like here now, this place, we have a small room down, which was called the yoga room because it was a hybrid place. We didn't know really if it was a place where to do massage, where to do courses, where to do yoga. It was many things. So just to give a general name, it was given the yoga room. So here now we make the second room for courses, and then, okay, we already start calling it, okay, the yoga room 2, the big yoga room, you know. We start giving names. But the interesting thing that I want to say is that if we observe, when we give a name, the name sticks to the thing. And then together with the name, we are giving a function, we are giving a value that we are attributing to it at the same time. Okay? So now this place becomes a place where to do teachings and courses and so on. Why? Because we choose. Because we attribute such value to it. We gave the name to it. Okay? Anyhow, so as we gave this function, let's use it for the right function, okay? So we'll now start with the teachings on, actually today we're supposed to do the teachings on the 3 transformations and the 9 unions. So we'll do some of that, and we'll do also some teachings on Bodhisattva Charyavatara, try to put the two things a little bit together, okay? But before we start with that, I would like just to do a short meditation that I prefer to do in the beginning. We sit in a comfortable position with our back straight but not tense. Our shoulders are relaxed. Our mouth is relaxed. Our eyes are slightly closed, looking downwards. The awareness on our breath as we inhale and exhale. Any thought that may come to our mind, we simply let it go away. Any sound that we listen are simply sounds. We do not grab at their meaning. We do not follow them. We simply bring back our attention to the air that goes in and the air that goes out. I inhale. And exhale. We observe the present moment, the preciousness and the rarity of being here at this moment, with all the conditions we have. We deeply rejoice of having met the Dharma, of having met our Guru that guides us through the Dharma, guide us to the path to enlightenment, giving us the pure Dharma. We rejoice of having the open mind to receive the teachings, of having time and space, inner space, to receive the teachings and to practice. We deeply rejoice of this precious opportunity. Having such a special opportunity, such a precious opportunity, I must do the best that I can with it and not let it go loose, not let it go lost. And so, I will put the Dharma into practice in my daily life. I will now listen to the teachings, just as receiving medicine, in order to cure my selfishness and my ignorance. We rejoice of this precious opportunity. We pray that this opportunity remain through all our life and from all our future lives. May we always be inseparable from the perfect Guru and inseparable from the Dharma, so that we may reach enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings as quick as possible. Jetsun lame kutse rapten chi namkar trinle chochur gepadang losan tempe dreme sasum gi drove munse tato negyur chi. So, regarding the correct view of reality that we have been seeing during these days, there is just something I wanted to say, is that, sometimes when we listen to it, it may look to us something very, difficult, far away, impossible to realize, abstract, it may seem, and most of all, it may seem something so complicated, so difficult, so out of our reach. Okay. But at the same time, there is a saying which I like very much. It says that the simple fact of doubting inherent existence, it's already a slap in the face of ignorance. Okay. And it's true because, yesterday and this last day is talking about, did we get to the point of saying, inherent existence doesn't exist? Yes. If I ask you, does this bottle exist inherently, intrinsically? No. So we got to that point at least. Okay? We got the understanding of it. Not maybe we didn't get the deep realization of it, but we already doubt it. We look at something, it doesn't look like it really exists by its own existence. No. Something not there, not working. Okay? Said that the only doubting is already like hitting the face of ignorance. Ignorance already is there because ignorance is quite tough now. So it's already there strongly. Only one slap won't make much difference. But we are there, little one, at least we managed to hit the face once. Okay? So what happens is that, making an example, it's like, imagine that we have a company, okay? And that in this company that we have, it's like a family company. And since many generations of our company, we have been losing money with it. We're never able to make profit. Our product is good, we work hard, and so on, but still we are never making really profit. It's always we have good moments, but there are many bad moments, and then we have many loans that we need to make in the bank. It's always going like this, and we never really understand why we do everything necessarily. Then one day, after a long time, we find out that there is one person that has always been there, from generation to generation, that is actually stealing money from the company. Then they say, now I found the actual cause. But I cannot send him away, because I don't know how to run the company without him. Okay? That's what happens when we understand that selfishness is the main cause of our suffering, but we don't know how to live without it. Okay? But in the moment that I go to this person and even without talking, I just look at this person and the person understands that I understand. It's already the start of the end. It's the beginning of the end of that process. We don't even need to talk. The simple fact that we look to each other and you know that I know that you are the one stealing. That's already enough. It's like hitting on the face. After centuries, I got it. Okay? So, for centuries and millions of years, since the beginningless time, we have been following ignorance just like a perfect disciple, no? With total faith. At a certain point, we doubt it and we say, I think you are wrong. I think phenomena do not exist as they appear to me, being inherent, out of inherent existence. Look like there is some interdependence there. By simply doubting it, not having realized it yet, is the beginning of the end of the empire of ignorance. It's like hitting on the face of ignorance. This is not this concept of doubting inherent existence is already hitting in the face of ignorance. This is some text, or holy text. I don't remember now already what text, because we read so many things that some words, they remain in the mind. But the point is that so we also need to rejoice about this fact. So it's not like, oh, it's useless that I study about emptiness because anyhow it is so difficult for me to understand, I'm never going to be able to do it. It's not true. It's a gradual process, and we get there. Why it's so gradual? No, it's not because it's too difficult. Actually, it's very, very simple. But the point is that we have been conditioned to think and to act in a different way, in an opposite manner, for such a long time that we need to repeat again and again and again and again and again and again so that slowly we get to the point. Okay? So let's do it again. Okay? Sukso ngo sumni kyang ni chakpa yingi tseme ming teni mitsang la sokpa tsanso chakpa shintu dzun jikten shukpe tundu ni gombo ngoden teni tu teda kechik mani min kunzop tuyang gal she na ngetu nimba kakpa kunzop tuyang madrupa pamba kunzop tuyang gal she na neljur kunzo nyemete jikten lato teni tong shentu pyume mitsang neto jikten gino gyur gyudre gyale sonamni jitar ngoyo la chi shin ninsam jorwa miteba pangba kalte semching gyudra na shine jitar keshe na chi si kenam tsogyurpa tesi gyulang tesi gyumang jungwar gyurin tsamgi jitar na semchen dembar yoba ins gedi ginam miteba pangwa gyume kebu sesola seme chirna dikmete gyume semdan dembala sonam dani dikpajung ngakso namla nume chir gyume semni jungame natso kenle chungwayi gyuma teya natso ni kenchi gini kun nupa kangna yangni yoma yin korde namye sosor ngeba miteba pangwas kalte tendam nyange de korwa kunzop tetana sange kyangni korgyurba janchu chöpe chishikcha kenam gyuni machena gyumang dokpar mi gyurgi kenam gyuni chebana kunzum tuya mi jungo. Okay. But even form and so on, as perceived by straightforward cognition itself, is established only by popular consensus and not by valid cognition. And that's false, like the popular consensus, that what's unclean and so forth is clean and so on. One second. Ranshin gibaruba soso yu nga ngosum gi tongwada galo shena mi kalte soso la ngosum gi tsema druba nikyang ni chakpe drube kunzo ba tsamla tsemar songwa yingi sukso gi tekona ni tsema te druba dang tela tsemar songwar mingte tetana soso kiwo namgi kyang tekona ni tongwe paglam keba goba mebar gyurba dang. Okay. But even form and so on, as perceived by straightforward cognition itself is the direct valid cognition, tsema, is established only by popular consensus and not by valid cognition. And that's false, like the popular consensus, what's unclean and so forth is clean and so on. One second only.
Teni pume gilu mi tsangwa la soba tsangwa soso chakwa shindu ngobo nam zumba yino. Teni pume gilu mi tsangwa la soba la tsangwa soso chakwa shindu ngobo nam zumba yino. Suk sopa rangi tsenyi gi madrubna jitara chakshin druba na yang jitara zumba yin shena. Mikda na wada na yang tsema ming sheso gi kyang te kona nila tsema yinba gakbar shebar chawos. Susu la rangi tsenyi gi madrubna jitara chakpa na.
So, at this point, the South Tantrika school is putting a question in which it says, but even form and so on, let's go to the Tibetan, sukso ngosum kyang nini, chakpa yimbe tseme min. Chakpa yimbe tseme min. Teni mitsang lasokpa, lasola, Tsangsok Chakpa Shintu Dzun. But even form and so on, as perceived by straightforward cognition itself, established only by popular consensus and not by valid cognition. And that's false, like the popular consensus, that's what's unclean and so forth, is clean and so on. What is being said here, basically, is that it's saying, things exist in the way we see them, okay? So, if for you to come to me and to say that nothing exists, everything only exists based on the perception of the observer and so on, that's false. If anything exists, it's what we see. I am seeing here the bell. Does the bell exist? Yes, because I perceive through a direct valid cognition, it exists. That's what makes it existing for me. That's what say, I see it, I touch it, it exists. So don't come to tell me that it's false. Don't come to tell me that it doesn't exist. Don't come to tell me that it's like an illusion. It exists. Here it is. I touch, I see it. So it's useless for you to come to me and say all of these other aspects because it's not like this. What is false? False is something that you give an attribute and that object is not able to fulfill that attribute. Like saying that something is clean when actually it is unclean. Okay? This is the example that is being given. And at the same time, this example is being used to say, look, for you to say that everything is false, what do we mean by false? False means something that is not able to fulfill the functions and the characteristics which is being given. So when I say this is a bell and it's able to do, that's not false. You cannot say that it doesn't exist in the way I see. I see it as a bell and it exists as a bell. So it's right. There is nothing wrong in that. Okay? This is the answer that is being, that's the point of view of this first school, which is quite clear. And it's very important also because it's bringing us down to earth, not to go into a nihilistic view. It's saying, okay, look, phenomena do exist. They can fulfill their functions. There they are. Okay? Water makes wet, fire burns. They do exist by their own characteristics. There they are. Okay? All right. Then, this is first going through logics. Then, it goes going through, we say, Lungi Nöba Gakpa. Lungi Nöba means they refer to Buddha's teachings, sutras, and referring to some of Buddha's teachings, also wanting to bring the same point of view, which says, Duche mi takpa sok su tungi lung changdun tu tempa. Jikten shukpa duche mi takpa sok su tunbe lung changdun tu tempa. Jikten shukpa tuntu ni gombo ngoya ten tenye tu. Ngedun yimba kakpa. Teda kechi mani means. Okay, we got a little bit more. Because as I said, we need to know these philosophical schools quite clear in order to be
able to explain them well and to see them well. So here it goes and says, Sula sopa ranshingi madrumna dole. Sula sopa ranshingi madrumna dole. Mi takpa soksu sumba dangalo shena. Mi galte jikten te kona nila rimge shube tuntuni gombo ngobo mi takpar tentos. Okay. It says, for the sake of causing the common world to enter, the guardian Buddha has taught that they are truly existent functional phenomena. Their actual nature, however, is that they aren't momentary things. Suppose, like the Sautantrikas, you object, but it is supposed to contradict the common surface view. Okay? So let's try to understand the meaning of that. I will read it once again. For the sake of causing the common world to enter, which means for the sake of helping, of showing the path to the people that have the common view of the world, no? As we say here, Sukso ranshingi drumna do sukso te kona nitu ngopo teda kechi ma nitu druba minte te kona nitu chikdan tuma kantwa ma drube chiros. Actually, the biggest difficulties of this verse is that they're made into verse. They're quite complicated philosophical concepts put into verse. So when we read, for example, we read a commentary, it's quite simple to explain just the commentary. When we relate it to the way how it's put it into verse, it makes it much more difficult in a way. Once you understand, then it's much more easy. Once you really grab the meaning of the verse. Otherwise, it needs a lot of interpretation. This means this, that means that, okay? So, suksum ngosum nigi kyan chakpa yimbe tseme mi, no, sorry. Jikten shukpe tuntuni gompo ngöten tenye tu teda kechi mani min. So, jikten shukpe tuntuni gompo ngöten. 1 second. Jikten tekona nila rimgi shukpe tuntu gompo ngobo. Yeah, that's what I thought. For the sake of causing the common world to enter. What do we mean by causing the common world to enter? For the sake of helping the people that have a common view of the world gradually to enter into the correct view of reality. Okay, to enter where? To enter into emptiness, to enter into the correct view of reality. Who? The common world, which means people that don't have the understanding of emptiness itself. The guardian, which is Buddha, has taught that there are truly existent functional phenomena. Buddha have said, look, there are phenomena that are truly existent, functional phenomena, which means they depend on causes and conditions to exist, and they really do exist in that way. Why? Because if Buddha from the beginning would have said, oh, phenomena, everything is empty, some people would understand nothing exists. So Buddha have said, look, there are phenomena that they really exist as functional phenomena. They really depend on causes and conditions. So they don't go into nihilistic view. Later they will understand that actually they lack inherent existence. But in the beginning, in order for these people not to go into a nihilistic view and to understand the law of cause and effect and so on, Buddha said gradually, okay, first there are functional phenomena that truly exist. They truly exist and they really are functional phenomena. Because if Buddha said, oh, look, cause and effect does not truly exist, what can we think about it? Oh, I can do whatever I want. But when Buddha say cause and effect does not truly exist, means the law of cause and effect does exist, but it does not exist
by its own characteristics in an intrinsic way. It exists being interdependent. Okay? But in the moment that Buddha would say, cause and effect does not truly exist, what will make people to think? Oh, I can do whatever I want. Cause and effect does not exist. So in order for people not to go into this wrong understanding, Buddha, to bring them to the right view, first need to establish cause and effect exist. Then I can understand how it doesn't exist inherently. But first I need to understand that it does exist. So because of that, the Guardian Buddha has taught that there are truly existent functional phenomena. No? Their actual nature, however, is that they aren't momentary things. Suppose, like the Sautantrikas, you object. But it is supposed to contradict the common surface view. Sula soparanshingi madrumna dole mitakpa soksu sumba dangalo shena mikalte jikten kot konale rimgi shubetundu gompo ngopo mitakpar temba o tentos ngetun yimba kakpa tekona nitu ngopo teta kechima nitu drupa mintes te kona nitu chikda tuma kanto yama drupe chiros. Okay. Yeah, the point here is when it says their actual nature, however, which is in tekonani in Tibetan, it's like their actual nature, however, is that they aren't momentary things. Because why it's talking here about momentary things, okay? Because there is a whole context behind this verse. For the sake of causing the common people to enter into the path to the correct view of reality, the Buddha has taught that there are functional phenomena. Functional phenomena, the Buddha have taught impermanence, basically. By teaching impermanence, Buddha taught the law of cause and effect. But when we say truly existent functional phenomena, it may look like the actual nature of phenomena is impermanence. What's the true actual nature of phenomena? Is this the true actual nature of phenomena impermanence? No. Is the actual true nature, is the ultimate nature of phenomena the fact that they are momentary things? No. But it is supposed to contradict the common surface view. The common surface view which means the relative way how things exist. But in other words, the meaning here is, even though Buddha have said that truly existent functional phenomena exist, this does not contradict with the fact that their true nature is permanent. Okay? Because what's the ultimate nature of phenomena? They lack inherent existence. The lack of inherent existence, emptiness, is permanent. So, the fact that Buddha have said that truly existent functional phenomena exist, that impermanence exists truly, this doesn't mean that the true nature of phenomena is impermanent. Buddha have just taught that in order to make the common view people to enter into the path of correct view of reality and not to think that law of cause and effect does not exist. Is it more clear? Okay? All right. That's why, as I said, the concept itself is not that complicated. It's just to put it within the verses. And even to connect the commentary with the verses is not so simple also in some points. Some points is very clear, because in the commentary it repeats all the words of the verses. At some other points it's quite difficult to put the two things together. Anyhow, just in English, going back, to make more simple the meaning of this verse, what it's saying here is that Buddha have said functional phenomena truly exist. But to say that a functional phenomena truly exists is not in contradiction to say that the functional phenomena's true nature is not being a functional phenomena. In other words, for me to say the bell, or better, if I ask you, does the bell exist or not? Is it true that the bell exists? Yeah, so the bell truly exists. Okay? But this is not in contradiction with the fact that the true nature of the bell is not being a bell. Okay? What's the actual existence of the bell? What's the ultimate existence of the bell? What's the actual nature of the bell? Is the actual nature of the bell being a bell? Emptiness. No, it's emptiness. Okay? But the fact that I say that the bell truly exists, that the bell actually does exist, is not in contradiction to the fact that the actual nature of the bell is not being a bell. It's being empty of inherent existence. Okay? Here, there is the conflict of saying the bell truly exists and saying that the true nature of the bell is being a bell. Okay? Can we understand this difference? Okay? So, the point is that when in the Madhyamika Prasangika we say the bell does not truly exist, it means the bell does not exist as a bell by its own nature. It doesn't mean that the bell doesn't exist. Okay? But because people could have this wrong understanding, Buddha in the first school said, the bell does exist. True, it's not fake. Okay? But this doesn't mean that the true nature of the bell is being a bell. The true nature of the bell, it's emptiness. It means it lacks inherent existence. Okay? So I will read once again the verse, maybe now it's a bit more clear. It says, for the sake of causing the world to enter, the common world to enter, the guardian, Buddha, has taught that there are truly existing functional phenomena. Their actual nature, however, is that they aren't momentary things. Momentary things, which means impermanent things, and functional phenomena are synonymous. Okay? Suppose, like the Sautantrikas, you objected by saying, but it is supposed to contradict with the common surface view, with the common relative view. To say that a bell does not, true nature is not a bell, this is contradicting with the common view. You may answer me in that way. And I say, actually not. With the mundane common view, it is contradictory, but what's the point? What's the problem with that, basically? Okay, as the common view is wrong. Okay, but is it more clear, the verse? Okay. The basic point for us to understand is when Buddha in the first school says that something truly exists, doesn't mean that it exists inherently. It means that it does exist. Otherwise, we can get into the idea that nothing exists. But by saying that something really does exist, it doesn't mean that its true nature is as it appears to us. Okay? All right, then we can go on. Tela gawa pangwa. Kunzop tuyang madruba pangba. Kunzop tuyang gal shena neljur kunzop nyemete jikten la to teni tong. Shendu pume mizangwar ngetok. Jikten gi nögyur. Tso sokpa miteba pangwa. Gyudre gyale sonamni jitar ngoyo la chi shing. Kalte semjin gyudre na shine jitar keshe na jisi kenam tsogyurpa tesi gyumon chungwar gyur. Gyurin samgi chitar na semjen dembar yoba yins. Gyume kebu se sola seme chirna digme pe gyume semdan dembala sonam dani digpa chung. Ngakso namla nume chir gyume semni jungwa me natso kenle jungwa yi gyuma tela natso ni. Kenchi gini kun nupa kangna yangni ye ma yin.
kunzop tuyang duche mi takpar druba galte jikte na ngatro ngobo teni chidro yoba so takpar chakpe chirchena jikte na sukso takpar trakyang mi takpar tseme madrube nyeba mete mi takpa so neljurpe kunzo tanyebe tsema drube chir wana mi takpa so tongwa teni tongwar sheba dan gal da gal shena mi kalte jiktempa tsangde tak so so shemba jiktempa tsangde tak so so shemba la tene teni tongwe sheba tsam yingchir tele shento jikte na chakse tsema yina pume mi tsawa ngebara tokpa mi dukpa gombe neljor pala pume tsangwara shembe jiktengi nöbal tarwar gyuros. Okay. Here now comes the part which is actually answering the question that was put before, when it says, but it's supposed to contradict the common view. No? Well, surfaced true asserted, surface means relative truth. No? The relative truth asserted by yogis has no fault. And that's a seeing of their actual nature in contrast with the common world's view. Otherwise, their ascertainment of uncleanness of a woman's body, for instance, will be undermined by the common world. Furthermore, the triumphant ones, who are like an illusion, comes positive force in the same way as if they are actually were truly existent functional phenomena. Suppose you object, but if a limited being were like an illusion, then how could he take in rebirth, having died? Well, so long as conditions are gathered together, for that long an illusion lasts as well. And how could a limited being be truly existent merely because he continually lasts longer? In murdering and so on, a person that is actually an illusion, there is no negative force since it has in the mind. But with someone having the type of illusion, a mind actually is, positive and negative forces occur. Okay. The meaning is more easy, as I said before, as actually the verses. So first we go to the meaning, then we go back to the verses. Okay? Because the point here is saying, if the point of saying, oh, it's not true, the actual true nature of the bell cannot be not being the bell, because this goes against the common perception. Okay? Then, the answer that is being given here is that if common perception is what really matters, okay, then what happens is that even impermanence it's wrong. Because when we see someone in the morning and we see the person in the evening, we think it's the same person, when actually the person has changed. So the common world view, which means the relative view of a yogi, those that have realized emptiness, as we saw yesterday, maybe before, which means seeing relative phenomena as being relative, that's correct. There's no wrong within it. Otherwise, the common view by itself, there is nothing special if it's wrong, if it does not appear correctly to the common view, because the common view has many wrong views within it. And if just because it's not in the way how common view sees it, if because of that it should be wrong, then we have a lot of problems. Then even impermanence does not exist. Because the common view is that things are permanent. Okay, in the common view, how does a phenomenon appear to us? As being permanent or as being impermanent? As being permanent. Okay? I see you today, we are looking at each other. We entered the room this morning, maybe like 1 hour and a half ago, almost 2 hours ago.
We were here, okay? And when we saw each other 2 hours ago and we are seeing each other now, do we look the same or we have changed? Without philosophic thinking. The same. So this is the common view. So can impermanence exist in the common view in this sense? No. So even impermanence is wrong if you say that what matters is the common view. So don't come to tell me that the true nature of phenomena cannot be emptiness because the common view cannot perceive it. Because if you tell me that the common view is what matters, then even impermanence is wrong. Okay? Mm-hmm. In the same way, in the common view, we have what we call, there are 3 wrong views of the common view, which is called Tsande Taksok, which means pure, pleasurable, and permanent. Okay? This is something that we see in details when we study in details the Four Noble Truths. Which basically is the fact that we see the objects that are of the nature of suffering as being pure, which means that they have the ability to give us happiness. We see objects that are of the nature of being pure, of being of the nature of being pure, that they can give us happiness. Of being of pleasure from their own nature, they are good by themselves, and at the same time by seeing them as being permanent, not changing. Okay? So for example, when we have a good food, we are hungry and we have a very good food, or we have an object of pleasure, any object of pleasure, we see it as being pure, we see it as being good for us, and we also see it as being permanent. We're not able to see the impermanence of it. That's why we suffer so much when it ends. Okay? So, this is the common way of the world, which is the wrong way of seeing. Okay? So if we give so much importance to the common way of seeing, then even this was wrong also. Okay? So, here it continues as it says. Now let's go to the verse. It says, well, relative truth, surface, which is what is on the surface truth, asserted by the yogis, has no fault. Otherwise, it's full of faults. And that's a seeing of their actual nature in contrast with the common world's view. Okay, as the surface view, the relative phenomena, as seen by those that have realized emptiness, by the yogis, there is no fault on it. But that view is in contradiction with the normal common view. Otherwise, their assertment of uncleanness of a woman's body, for instance, will be undermined by the common world. What's the meaning of that? Yogi, there is a part of meditation in order to eliminate one's own desire. This doesn't mean that a woman's body is clean or unclean. Okay? The point of saying here is that there is one type of meditation, which was explained in the 8th chapter before, in which we meditate on the body of a woman or a man. Here it doesn't make much difference. It's talking about a woman because these teachings were given in a very male context in the monastery. Okay? But basically, the meditation can be done in both ways, which means that when we have so much attachment to the body of someone else, and then we can meditate on the uncleanness of the body. So we start to observe that the body is just nothing more than a bag of shit, you know? That inside is full of shit, and that, you know, is just some little skin, and inside is all blood and all other things. So actually the body is very unclean, and we need to wash the body every day because its true nature is stinking, you know. And then we put on the body all forms of perfumes and so many things to try to make it attractive. But if we really look the body by its actual nature, it's really awful, okay? There is this whole way of meditating on that in order to eliminate one's own attachment and desire, okay? So the point that is saying here is that on this verse, otherwise, you know, there is a danger of reading this verse and thinking, oh, Shantideva is saying that women's body are impure. It has nothing to do with that. Okay? Because there are some ancient cultures that says that woman body is impure. Even from the Jewish Orthodox, even from many traditions, the Muslim and many other old ancient traditions says, oh, you cannot touch a woman body because it's impure and so on. Here it has nothing to do with that. Because we come from that background sometimes. When we read something, we think that it's in the same way, but it has nothing to do with that. The point here is that to meditate on the impure of the uncleanness and impurity of a body of someone to whom we have attachment. Okay? If we have attachment to the same sex, that's better. We can need to meditate on the same sex body as being impure, you know? It has nothing to do with actually man or woman or things like that, okay? So, the point here is saying that, well, surface true asserted by yogis has no fault. And that's seen of their actual nature in contrast with the common world's view. Otherwise, their assertion of uncleanness of a woman's body, for instance, will be undermined by the common world. Which means, in the common way of seeing, our object of attraction is clean or unclean? It's clean. Okay? So, if the common way would be the right way and everything else would be wrong, then the way of the meditator that is meditating on the uncleanness of the body would be completely wrong. Okay? But the point is that his perception is not a wrong perception. In other words, we are actually bags of shit, okay? But we not only carry shit, we generate it also, no? So, the point is that it depends all on the perspective and the way in the imputation of the name, basically. But we can actually fulfill the functions of being a bag of shit, right? So, the point here is that if the common view would be the actual way of seeing what is right and what is wrong, then the yogi here would be wrong in meditating in such way. Okay? But actually the yogi is not wrong. Okay? So, this is just making an example of how actually there are different ways, contradictory views. And it's not because it's contradictory that it's wrong. Okay? And this is also using these examples because who is making the opposition saying, oh, it goes against the common view, the Sautantrika and view, the Sautantrika school. But the Sautantrika school do meditate on the uncleanness of the body. So what is being said is like, look, if the common view is what matters, then your meditation is the wrong. Then the realization of the uncleanness of the body is a wrong view because that goes against the common view. Okay, that's why it's talking about this point here. Okay, it's clear, no? Okay. Next verse, number 9. Sosopa miteba pawa. Gyute gyale sonamni jitar ngola chishintu. Kalte semche gyuda na shine jitar keshe na jiri kenam sogyur pa tesi gyuman jungwar gyur. Gyurin tsamgi jitar na semchen dewar yobayin. Furthermore, from triumphant ones who are like an illusion, comes positive force, merits, positive actions. In the same way as if they actually were truly existing functional phenomena. Suppose you object, but if a limited being were like an illusion, how could he take rebirth once having died? Well, so long as conditions are gathered together, for that long an illusion lasts as well. And how could a limited being be truly existence merely because he continually lasts longer? So,
gyude gyale sonamni jitar ngoyo la chishin. 1 second. Rangshingi mena gyalwa chepa sola sonam jungwar sheba dangalo shena mi khalte dembar me gyuma dan trawe gyalwa la chepa sonam jungwani jitar kyo gyalwa dembe ngobor yobar deba la sonam jungwar deba jitar kyo gyawa dembe ngobor yobar deba la sonam jungwar deba chitawa shinos denrung mi denrung ngopo dan tumbar sonam jungwa yinos. Okay. So the point here says, furthermore, from triumphant ones who are like an illusion comes positive force. The point here is saying that what someone could say is like, if phenomena functionally does not exist, if phenomena truly do not exist, these are the oppositions that the Sautantrika school makes to the Madhyamika. You say that phenomena truly do not exist. You say that the true nature of phenomena, the actual nature of phenomena is that they are empty, that they do not exist truly. Which actually means they do not exist inherently, okay? If they do not exist truly, how can there be merit? How can there be positive and negative actions? Okay? Because there is no cause and effect in this sense. So, from triumphant ones, from the Buddhas, how can I accumulate merit from the Buddhas? By making offerings, by paying respect. How can I accumulate merits? If they are like an illusion. So it says, from triumphant ones who are like an illusion comes positive force. In the same way as if they were actually truly existent functional phenomena. What is being said here is that even though we say that something does not truly exist, this doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. When we say that something does not truly exist, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist as a functional phenomenon. Okay? Why? Because when we say that it does not truly exist, means it does not exist inherently, out of its own characteristics. But this doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Because this is a lot of confusion that is made in the beginning. So, one of the problems with this is what? Oh, everything is an illusion, nothing truly exists, so what's the point of making positive or negative actions? Of caring for all of that? The positive action does not truly exist, the negative action does not truly exist, so we can do whatever we want, nothing truly exists. Can we see the danger to go into that path? Okay? So in order to avoid that, is what is being said here. Merits, positive actions, do not truly exist. But this doesn't mean that they do not exist as a functional phenomena. This doesn't mean that they would not bring results. Okay? What does it mean that they do not truly exist? They do not exist as we see them only from their own characteristics. They exist in an interdependent way. Okay? So, from triumphant ones who are like an illusion, positive force comes positive force, which means we generate merit, for example, by making offering to the Buddhas. Okay? So from the Buddhas comes positive energy, comes merit, even though they are like an illusions. What it means to say they are like an illusion. They appear to us as being of inherent existence, but actually they are not. They are not truly existent as they appear to us. So from triumphant ones who are like an illusion comes positive force. In the same way as they actually were truly existing functional phenomena. The way how positive force comes from the Buddhas, it comes in the same way as if they existed as being a truly existing functional phenomena. Which means cause brings result. It's not just something that is in our mind.
there is existence. It's not because they are empty of inherent existence that they do not exist. It's not because they are empty of inherent existence that action will not bring result, and so on. Okay? Sì, questo sì. But the point is because they are empty of inherent existence that they are interdependent, and that's because cause brings result. But still, in the common view, and in the Sautantrika view, what says, if you say, oh, but if it's not truly existent as a functional phenomena, if it does not truly exist in this way, oh, then how can it bring result? If it doesn't exist, if it's just an illusion. Okay? And here comes the point of making the difference. What do we mean by being like an illusion? It doesn't mean that it does not exist. You remember yesterday we were discussing about this, of something being an illusion, and meaning that if it is an illusion, it means that it does not exist. That's why we say it's like an illusion. Why? Because it does exist. So, by making a positive action and getting a positive result, even though the action and everything is like an illusion, because it appears to me as being of inherent existence while actually it is not, still it exists as a functional phenomena. Still the actions will bring results. Okay? So, in the same way as they were actually truly existing functional phenomena. Okay, this is the first part. Then the next verse is connecting with the other one. Suppose you objected, and you said, but if a limited being were like an illusion, then how could he take rebirth once having died? Okay, if it's just an illusion, how can he take rebirth if it's just an illusion? Okay? Once again, it's not an illusion, it's like an illusion. Okay? Well, so long as conditions are gathered together, for that long an illusion lasts as well. In the same way, when we have an illusion, like come a magician and makes an illusion, as long as the conditions are there, the illusion remains. Similar to that, as long as causes and conditions are that, we are going to be born and rebirth. As long as causes and conditions are there for there to be rebirth, there will be rebirth. As long as cause and conditions will be there for anything to happen, such thing will happen. Even though it is like an illusion, this doesn't make it not to depend on causes and conditions.
When it says the triumphant ones who are like an illusion,
Yeah.
does that mean lacking in inherent existence?
Yes.
Or lacking in inherent existence?
Yes, triumphant ones means the Buddha, who are like an illusion means they appear to us as being of inherent existence, but actually they are not. Okay? When we think of a Buddha, we think of a Buddha as being inherent existent, but it's not. Okay? So here are two verses. First saying that when we look to the pure beings like a Buddha, we see them as being of inherent existence, but actually they are not. And the fact of being empty of inherent existence doesn't make them non-existent. And the next verse is saying, and sentient beings also are like an illusion, but it's not because they are like an illusion that they do not exist. Why they exist? Because they depend on causes and conditions. And as long as causes and conditions will be there, rebirth will be there. Everything will happen as long as causes and conditions are present. Okay? And here there is this question which is saying, so, how could a limited being be truly existent? Why? Just because his continuity lasts longer? Now why he's truly existent? Because to be reborn from one life there, he needs to be truly existent. It doesn't make much sense, no? Let me just check in the commentary. Kalte simchen de me gyuma dan trana. Gyume simchen shikne lar mi jungatar simche shine jitar kena. Gyumada simche nam tamche drawar ke lamba dembra druma druptar. Tetsam kyome de juna kyorangi milam da gyuma zumbar ke lamba dena tena zumba yan tena.
te mitsumte semchen tongma mebane gyun rinpochiru shena gyun rinwa tsamgi chitarna semchen dembar yoba yinla gyuma gyun tungwe dzumpe kebar miteba ta tena gyuma da milam sokyang gyun ringtung yobe denzun kebar ke lang gobe chirte milam to kelpa dremba dang sakchik dremba sok yobe chiro. So the point here is that when it says, and how could a limited being be truly existent merely because his continuity lasts longer? Here is that in the Southern Trika they may go and they may say, no, it cannot be lack of true existence. Why? It cannot be like an illusion. Why? Because this continuity comes since the beginningless time. It has always been there, so it's truly existence. Because it's lasts since a long time, it's always been there, so it's truly existent. And then here the answer is, okay, why? Just simply because something lasts for a very long time, it needs to be truly existent? For example, when we talk about dreams, we have dreams that last for a very long time, for eons, and dreams that last for instant. So, it's not because something is an illusion. Even from the mundane point of view, there are illusions that last for very, very, very long time. It's not because something that has been there since we can remember that necessarily it is truly existent. Even from the common view, there are illusions such as dreams that can last for eons, and others that can be very short. So it's not because it has been there since the beginningless time that is necessarily truly existent, even from a common way of seeing. The point here is saying that both holy beings such as Buddha are like an illusion because they last inherent existence, and this doesn't mean that they do not exist and they are not impermanent and so on. They are not functional phenomena. At the same time, we, common beings, it's not because we are like an illusion that we do not depend on the law of cause and effect and karma and so on. We still exist based on cause and effect, and because of that, we depend on the law of karma and so on. Why? Because we are interdependent, because we lack inherent existence. But the fact that we do not truly exist as being inherent existent, this doesn't mean that we do not depend on causes and conditions. Okay? Well, I will just read quickly the next verses because they are the conclusion of this part of the text, and it's easier to understand having already seen what we have seen today. So I'm just going to read them quickly because actually I am already past time that I need to go. Okay? So it says, Gyume kibu se sokla se me chirna dikmete gyume semdan dembala sonam dani dikpa jung ngak sonam la nume chir gyume semni jungwa me natso kenle jungwa yi gyuma teya natso ni kenchi gini kunyo pa kangna yangni yoma yin korde ginamye sosor nge miteba pawam kalte tundam nyange de korwa kunzom tetarna sange kyangni korgyurwe janchup chobe chishikcha kenam gyuni machena gyumang dokbar mi gyurgi kenam gyuni chebana kunzup tuyang mi jungo. The next point, basically, it's saying that two things, the next verses. Thing one, if phenomena do not exist truly, then how there can be merit and how there can be virtue. If I kill someone but this person does not truly exist, who am I killing? If you are just an illusion, what I am killing? My illusion. So how there can be negative karma out of that? So the point here is saying that's not the way how it is. Even though it is like an illusion, there is still merit and there is still negative karma. And the other point which is saying if everything is an illusion, how there can be samsara and how there can be nirvana? What's the nirvana is just an illusion. So what's the point of putting so much effort in the path of the Bodhisattva to reach an illusion?
It's saying, even nirvana is like an illusion, not the experience of nirvana, but from us looking at nirvana now, it is not an actual illusion. It does exist. Okay? That's the main point. So it says, in murdering and so on, a person that is actually an illusion, there is no negative force since it has a mind. But with someone having the type of illusion a mind actually is, positive and negative force accrue. Which means, in murdering someone that is an actual illusion, I'm not killing anyone because there is no one, I'm not taking away the life of anyone. But if I am murdering someone that is like an illusion, I am actually killing someone, and there is the negative karma that comes out of it. In a dream, we are not killing a person. We are making the negative action of the thought of killing. It's an illusion of killing. The person of the dream, does this person actually exist?
No, but negative forces accrue from that.
Negative, okay. No. In murdering and so on, a person that is actually an illusion, like in a dream, there is no negative force since it has an mind. Which means you don't have the negative karma of having killed a person. When it says here there is no negative force, it doesn't mean that there is no negative karma at all. Even if you kill someone in a dream, there is a negative karma of thinking of killing a person. But there is not the karma of actually killing a person. That's the point here. But with someone having the type of illusion a mind actually is, positive and negative force accrue, which means is someone that is an illusion but that has a mind, which means is like an illusion. It appears to me as being of inherent existence, but actually it's not. When I kill him, then really there is the negative karma of having killed a person. So it's not because it's like an illusion that I have no karma of killing him. Okay? Because mantras and so forth lack the ability, they cannot produce an actual illusory mind. And even the illusory one that arises from varying conditions is of varying sorts, since nowhere is there one condition having the ability for producing all. Suppose you ask, if in deepest truth someone were released in natural nirvana and in surface truth were circling in samsara, then since Buddha as well would be circling in samsara, what use would there be in a bodhisattva behavior? Well, even an illusion cannot be turned back unless the continuity of its conditions is cut. Yet the continuity of its conditions is cut, it doesn't arise even in surface truth. Okay? I'm not going to go now in details of the verses, but the point here, and then from verse 15, we start with the debate with the Chittamatra school. Okay? The point until here with the Sautantrika school is saying, oh, if something does not truly exist, it doesn't exist. If something is like an illusion, it's an actual illusion. So what he's saying here, it's not like that. The bell does exist, but it's not because of that the actual nature of the bell is being a bell. So the bell does not truly exist as a bell. This doesn't mean that the bell does not exist. It's not because something is like an illusion that it does not exist. It's not because something is like an illusion that karma does not exist, that the law of cause and effect does not exist, that samsara and nirvana does not exist. Okay? Both samsara and nirvana lack inherent existence, and because of that are like an illusion. But it's not because of that that samsara and nirvana does not exist. Okay? This is the clear point to put here.
Chetsun lame kotse raptenchi namkara tinle chochur gepa dang losan tempe drome sasungi drove munsel tato negyurchi nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delekshin Nyensen takto delekpe
Concho sumge jinge lo, concho sumge ngodrup sol, concho sumge trashisho. Oma huntamba lame sangye rinpoche, kyoba lame tamcho rinpoche, drenba lame gendo rinpoche, kyamne kuncho sumla chopa bul. Locho sambo pagyo trashi pa, tuche tembe tinle yarngod, pege drolo zambe zebra che, panden lame shela chopa bul, oma hum, oma hum, oma. Buon appetito a tutti.